Welcome everybody to the Serpent Tarot for episode 6 of the You Through the Houses series. The pick a card that relates to each of the houses in the astrology chart, what that governs and how those energies are working for you. So as it's episode 6, fairly logically we're looking at the 6th house, which is ruled by Virgo. And in a minute, I'm going to go through a little bit about that and what that means, and so the focus of the readings, and then I'm going to go into some of the other parts of this particular series and how the information is relayed. For those who have seen other episodes, you will know the structure is a bit different than usual. I don't jump instantly into the pick a card section so that you choose your pile and then you go to your reading. I actually do a couple of things first. First is to set the scene on what the house is about, and so therefore what the focus of the reading is going to be about. Then I do a section about astrology where if you are an astrologer who wants to listen to this is very 101 astrology level, so by all means listen to it, but skip it if it doesn't, if you don't feel that you need it or be benefited from it. But if you're an astrologer, if you're someone who has their astrology chart, so you know what sign is in your 6th house in this case, what planets are in the 6th house, or if you have access to your birth data, and what I mean by that is date of birth, place of birth and time of birth, because you'll need to know your time of birth to know what house, what sign is in the house and what planets are in that house. But if you know that, then you can go to some of the sites on the internet that provide free sort of natal charts and so forth, and find that out if you want. So people who have enough knowledge of that, of their own chart, might find it interesting to learn about what the different signs in that house mean, what the different planets mean. So I'll do a very high level overview of that. I've just sort of written down notes ahead of filming this of the various aspects for those two facets, the sign and the planets. Very, very high level, but it could be of interest to you and add to the reading if you do know that about your chart. And if you are an astrologer and you listen to it, by all means share in the comments if there's other aspects that I haven't touched upon, because it's not going to be in depth, and that would certainly be for the benefit of everybody. But if you're not interested in that, or you don't have access to that information, you can jump straight to the pick a pile section of this video, which will be in the timestamps, and then go into your reading. So that's the structure. So to start with, the 6th house is ruled by Virgo. Virgo is an earth sign. It is a sign that is about routine, structure, detail. It's a sign about health and about balance and being meticulous. And so it's not surprising that the key things that Virgo rules in the 6th house are around your service to others, your service to yourself, including your health and well-being, and your day-to-day routines and work. I tend to see the 6th house as one of two houses in the chart that are about career in one form or another. I see the 6th house as being about day-to-day work, routine, what you do as a job, and to some degree a vocational element, like what is your service to others, as I say. The 10th house seems to be more around your place in the world, your ambitions, the sort of material outcomes, the potential leadership and so forth. So they're sort of differentiated on that way, but they do connect. And so certainly, again, if you have your chart and you know what planets you have in the 6th house, it's interesting to also know what's in the 10th if you're particularly interested in the work side of this. But we are going to be looking at all of it. We won't look a lot about health, because I think it's a bit inappropriate to do too much around health with tarot, because that's a very sort of sensitive area. I will be touching on things like well-being, but that's obviously something that if you have any concerns, you should go and get proper medical advice. But we'll be looking primarily at what your service to others sort of energy is, what your day-to-day routine / work is, how they interact, how it's working at the moment, what Spirit would suggest to maximize the benefits of that. And we'll have a look at various aspects with oracle cards to add to it, including we're going to use a couple of oracle decks that are about fortune, because I feel that the sixth house, because it's about work, it's about health, it's about those sort of things, there is actually quite a big external component on what happens with the sixth house. What jobs you have a big external component in terms of what's available, what have you been able to be trained for, and so forth. So there's both what's within your control, and that's primarily what we're going to be looking at, but there's also the things that are a bit about fortune, just to give you a sense about areas to be aware of or areas to leverage if the fortune is looking particularly good at the time you come to this reading. And then we'll finish off with some other astrology to bring it all together. So that's basically what we're going to do in the readings. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through my notes, as I say, to talk about what it means for the different signs in this house and then the planets. So if that's not of interest to you, go straight to the pile choice and into your readings. But for those who are still with me, I'm going to start with the signs in the sixth house. So if you have Aries in the sixth house, you'll be very ambitious. You'll have a lot of drive in your career and also in your routine, a lot of energy. Potential for overdoing things with Aries, certainly wanting to be an initiator, a self-starter, tends to be ahead of the curve, may well be the sort of person who gets into new sorts of endeavours, new sorts of careers earlier than others, because Aries just tends to be an early adopter. For Taurus in the sixth house, your work and routine is kind of connected to having the good life, providing for yourself, providing for others. You could work in health, hospitality, pleasure industries in some way. Could potentially also be stubborn about how you do things and quite conservative about how you approach your work. For Gemini, because it's the big communicator, there's likely to be a communication focus in your work and in how you serve and help others. You may in fact work within communications, would be likely to be very successful with that. You do provide to others clarity, a speed of thought, and you may potentially juggle more than one role, more than one job at any given time. With Cancer in the sixth house, you may like to work from home if you have the opportunity, or to work around home-related industries in one form or another. You certainly want to build a protective space for yourself and others, and you serve others through providing safety, comfort, protection, and possibly family-oriented work. With Leo in the sixth house, you'll have a dramatic flair. You may in fact work in the performance arts or in some way where you are centre stage, the spotlight is on you. You do seek recognition for the work that you do and for the service that you provide, but you have a deep passion for it as well. If you have Virgo in the sixth house, you have the rulership in the sixth house. So that aligns very strongly. You will like routine and structure. You'll like detail. You could work in health industries or be health oriented. You're also extremely good planners and directors of activity because you really get into the detail, but you can see how it all connects. If you have Libra in the sixth house, you may work in the justice or legal system or in something to do with balance and fairness. You could also be intellectual, academic, or work in some form of social work, something that has a social cause. You seek and bring harmony and balance within what you service to others and your work. You'd be the natural mediator in a workplace, for instance. If you have Scorpio in the sixth house, you have very intense connections to your work and to your service. Could be in forensic or detective sort of work, anything that looks for the underneath of things. Could be spiritual or sort of psychic in nature, the sort of work that you do. Also extremely good at relationship management because you really get the dynamics on a very deep level. If you have Sagittarius in the sixth house, you like your freedom. So any routine, any service to others, it needs to give you a certain degree of flexibility. You would not be the ideal person for a 9-to-5 job unless you find a way that you can be autonomous or it's something that you're very passionate and creative about. You may have a travel-oriented job or a philosophy-oriented job or academic. You have very high ideals. If you are Capricorn in the sixth house, then you could be involved in work that has to do with power, with politics, with business. You're likely to be very materially savvy and strong. very good at manifesting. You could work in big organisations, big corporates, big government, that sort of thing. And your service to others is material in some way. It is expressed through material sorts of ways. If you have Aquarius in the 6th house, you're very future oriented, could be into technology, artificial intelligence, exploration, spirituality. There's a philosophical side to you, very much an intellectual approach to work and services, likely to be looking at the big picture for how you would serve others rather than the sort of day-to-day individual sort of service. And if you have Pisces in the 6th house, you're extremely idealistic around anything in terms of service and your routines, very spiritual. You are also likely to be highly artistic or creative, very much working around things that require empathy and an emotional resonance and maybe in a psychic acuity in one form or another. Okay, so then we have the planets. So if you have the Sun in the 6th house, work and service is important to your identity. It's part of how you see yourself, and your life path is directed towards serving others in some form. You're likely to be also looking at things like service industries, the health industry and so forth. And the intrinsic value of your work is the most important thing to you. If you have the Moon in the 6th house, you need work to be useful, you need it to be stimulating, you need a bit of variety, you might shift jobs quite a bit, and you're very sensitive physically. So in terms of health related things, you have a kind of a very sensitive radar for when maybe there's something physically wrong or something that you need to deal with. If you have Mercury there, then you're detail oriented, your mind is always on, you're a great organizer, but you might suffer from nervous tension a bit, both in terms of what you do in your work, but more generally. Venus in the 6th house means that love is practical to you. It's a thing of service. You are of service to your loved ones, you're of service to your community, whatever it is. It's how you express your love nature. You value practical relationships above romantic quite often as well. Doesn't mean you don't fall in love, just means that you really like to sort of see the expression of that in a practical way. If you have Mars there, then you might be a bit of a workaholic, potentially, certainly very fast, possibly impatient with others if they can't keep up, but you're a great organizer and analyst. Jupiter in the 6th house means you have very high standards in business, very ethical. Ethics, in fact, are key to choices about the work you do, who you work with, and so forth. And you have a very philanthropic approach to service to others and your work. May work in not-for-profits, for instance. Saturn in the 6th is a great placement, in fact, for this planet. It really likes the routine, it likes the structure, it likes the service. Again, it could be workaholism, but it's not so much from the sort of drive of Mars. It's more from a sense of being extremely responsible, really taking work and service seriously, meeting your commitments, always being reliable. Uranus is very future oriented, a bit like having Aquarius in the 6th house. So artificial intelligence, technology, science, all of those sort of things are very likely to be career choices. Day-to-day routine is very boring to you. For the most part, you're not going to love a regular 9-to-5 job unless it is very much in a future-oriented way and it becomes more of a passion intellectually for you. You're very individualistic in your work and routine, and also in how you approach your health. You like alternative therapies and so forth. Neptune in the 6th house is probably a little bit of an uncomfortable placement because Neptune's not really that happy with routine and organising. They're more idealistic. If they can balance their ideals with their material outcomes and their routine, they're likely to be happier. In terms of health, there could be nervous tension, there could be mystery ailments, that sort of thing. You like alternative health remedies and so forth and would be likely to respond well to them. Pluto in the 6th house makes for a very hard worker, extremely forensic analysis. You go very deep, may be drawn to depth psychology or things to do with psychology in general. It's the underneath of things at work. You're going to see what's going on in an organisation quicker than most because you really see to the depth. You can, however, get a bit obsessed with work, so you have to balance that. You're very private. You're also interested in alternative health and mind-body connection and those sorts of things. Chiron, where Chiron is, so if this is in the 6th house, Chiron often shows where there was some wounding in childhood and what that has left is something that needs to be healed. So people with Chiron in the 6th house, and Chiron is about healing, they're going to be a bit preoccupied with health because health is where the 6th house is, or the 6th house, sorry, is where health is. So you might get a bit obsessive over this. It could come from having had mystery ailments or strange sort of issues and challenges when you were young and really wanting to understand and be able to heal yourself and protect yourself physically and so forth. You could also, as a result of this, decide to work in a health field and therefore serve and heal others. So that's the very high level astrology. As I said, it's not meant to be really detailed. It's just meant to give you a sense of some of the sort of placements and what that might mean, because it might have some sort of impact on how you take this reading and what you take from the reading. So at this point, we're moving into the pile choice for those that are just joining us again now. So as I've done in the other episodes, what I've done is I've taken, in this case, a number 6 from the minor arcana for the 6th house, and I've taken one for each of the suits to represent earth, air, water and fire here in this particular order. So it's a 6 from each of the suits for that. So for pile 1 I have the 6 of Pentacles, for pile 2 I have the 6 of Swords, for pile 3 I have the 6 of Cups, and for pile 4 I have the 6 of Wands. You may use that to choose what reading to go to if you know what particular element in terms of sign you have in the 6th house, but you don't have to do that. There might be a particular element you're drawn to. It might be the deck that I'm using here, it might be the imagery and so forth. Whatever works for you, and you're more than welcome to go to more than one, because it might be that you might have your service to others messages in one and your career in another. So it's completely whatever you're drawn to. There's no rules around this just because it's a particular series. But when you know which reading or readings you want to go to, as always, we'll have the timestamps in the description box below, and I'll see you there. Welcome, pile 1, to your reading. So these 3 cards here are to give a sense about your calling to service, so the service-oriented aspects of the 6th house for you. These cards are meant to represent your day-to-day routine and job, how that is sort of manifesting on a kind of day-to-day level. We'll then be using some of the cards here to look at the bridge between them, how these two things marry. I think there's a pretty obvious connection between the two, actually. It will be interesting to see what we get with the other cards. Because when I look at you in relation to your service to others, you seem to be someone who will fight for others, for the appropriate boundaries around life, for fairness for others, and to escape situations that were not working. You've got Harry Houdini as a kind of a saint or mystic from the Saints and Mystics deck, and he is all about mastery of skills and so forth, but also about escape, about being able to liberate in some way. And we have fight here as a kind of community energy that you bring in from the Gospel of Aradia deck, and then boundaries from the Oracle of the Dragon phase. So putting this together, it looks to me like your key element of service to others is being able to help them be liberated from issues that would otherwise be contentious, or potentially to be able to build boundaries up so that they feel freed from some obligations that are not right, from something that's unjust or something in that area. And in terms of how that works on a day-to-day level, we have protection over here as well. So you're very protective of other people. You may have Cancer in your 6th house potentially, though some of this feels more sort of either intellectual, so more air, or possibly fire. So it could be any of those 3 potentially. But certainly you bring into your day-to-day routine and possibly into your role something to do with protection and something to do with communication, which for you works very well. You look like you are, if you aren't already working, then this is going to happen. But for those who are working, it looks as though you do form great partnerships in your work. You do get financial gain. You are extremely good at what you do, and it's largely because you're a very good communicator. So this could be an absolute classic layout for something like a defence lawyer, or someone who works in sort of social support areas where your kind of way of articulating an issue and negotiating or mediating to get an outcome to help and protect others is just a very natural thing for you. You're very much able to do it. If you're not specifically doing that, then in your workplace probably you will be very alive to anything that is not right, anything that is culturally difficult, anything that is unfair. You have a very, very, very strong sense of ethics, and that permeates all of your sixth house and how you operate. And you're very strong, and you know you're strong. You know that you can deal with these things more than most people. You know that you could talk your way in or out of anything, that you're all over that, but you're very brave. That's why you're very protective. For some, I'm also getting, this could be a career or day-to-day thing, which is actually more around being a family person, like being a nurturer, being a parent, a caregiver, or something like that. If that's the case, then either there is the financial sort of support for you to do that, or you may in fact do it as a career, and you are very protective, but you really know how to communicate and bring out the best in the people that you are nurturing and looking after and so forth. So there's a number of ways this could work, from very high level sort of, as I say, negotiator, mediator, conciliator, to person who is a natural protector within a workplace. You could, like in a workplace, you could be a union delegate, you could be someone who is in human resources to look after issues and help work out grievances and so forth, or you could just be that person in the team that everybody goes to get the balance and to be able to stand up to when there is something not right going on. But you have a very, very, very finely tuned antenna to what is right and wrong, and when one needs to fight, when one needs to put up boundaries, when one needs to escape, when one needs to protect. You will also know when to leave a workplace yourself or leave a situation yourself. I don't get the sense that you will sit and stew in something and let it affect your health. And if you were protecting others, you would give the advice and the strategy to help them move on and find something else. You know the impact of this. You are protective because you know of the sort of underlying way that bad situations can affect health and well-being and so forth. So you're very aware of that. There's something very deeply nurturing about you. But it comes out in this really strong communication, really being able to call out the bad guys when you have to, and articulate what the escape plan is, or the boundaries are, or when it's necessary to debate. So you're the sort of person that people would love to work with, to be frank, because you have very strong ethical standards, and you will look out for people, and you will look for the right in whatever area and whatever career you do. But I do think that many of you, something to do with communication or to do with mediation in some way, would be an excellent career choice for you. Okay, so let's have a look at some bridging energy between the sort of service to others and the career, even though I think, as I say, there's quite a clear connection, but we'll see what else we get. So we have Goddess Persephone with cycles, we have breakthroughs, and unconscious. Okay, so Persephone goes to the depths. You can do that. This is part of the reason, Pole 1, that you were so good at being the warrior in the workplace, in a way, the person who can stand up for what is right and so forth, and resolve wrongs and all of that kind of thing. You understand the cycles of power, the cycles within organizations, even the cycles of health. Like you're very attuned to all of that sort of thing, and you're comfortable with going to the depths when you have to. You're comfortable with taking on whatever role you have to take on, because in some ways the boundary role here is about setting boundaries. If you were a leader, you would set really good boundaries in your team about what was appropriate, how people should deal with each other and so forth. Fighting, if you need to go into the fight, if you need to debate, you're able to take that on. Walking away when it's necessary, you're able to do that. Communicating and clarifying and bringing protection and better relationships around work, service and so forth. You're good at all of that. And it's because you can go to the depths and you're not afraid of that, and you understand the cycles. You can go to the unconscious level. You see the pattern underneath what's going on. That's why I say you would be an amazing person to work with, because you would see all of this way before most people. And half the time, I think you probably set up the boundaries or head off the fight at the pass, or get people out of a situation before they even know it had happened. I think that quite often you are almost like one of those sort of superheroes in the movies where they kind of come in, they do something and somebody doesn't even know it's happened. It's that seamless for you. You're also good at giving people breakthroughs, breakouts in a way, and breakthroughs. So you're meant to progress things on. Part of your service to others and your routine is to take things to higher levels, better levels, levels of better collaboration and better fulfillment for people. So as I say, I'd love to work with someone like you, I have to say. It's a really, really powerful energy right off the bat for the 6th house. So let's have a look with tarot, firstly about what's going on right now sort of in the energy around all of this, and then we're going to have a look at what external factors are influencing it in particular. But first of all, what energy does Spirit want to talk to you about in relation to this pattern of service for others and day-to-day routine work and so forth? So I'd say for many of you, because I do think many of you, whether in an actual role or whether it's just something that your personality has taken on in a workplace or a day-to-day routine, I think that many of you are looking at a situation at the moment where there's maybe been overwork, people are getting a bit burnt out, maybe something is being done over and over that really it's like that definition of insanity, that if you keep doing the same thing over and over, that's insanity. It's almost like you're in that kind of a thing. You're seeing this cycle that's going through, and you can see a lot of it is unconscious. With the Ace of Wands and the Ten of Wands reversed, I feel like the aha moment, which I think you've understood, is not yet telegraphed to everybody else because they're kind of too exhausted, and you can see this. So you're trying to work out how to bring better balance into a team, into relationships, into the organisation, whatever it is. And I think there's some key people, and you're identifying who the key people are around that. I mean, quite frankly, you're probably one of the key people, but it may be that you're more in a facilitative role than necessarily the boss, at least in some circumstances. It depends who comes to this reading. What you're looking at right now is where did it get kind of off course? Where did the sort of material and service related sort of elements of this sort of veer off course? Because it looks like that's what's happened. This is why you're ideal for this sort of thing, because you'll be able to articulate that really well and bring it back into balance and bring the relationships back into balance. Your temperance ability is really being called upon right now. So I do think that most who've come to this reading, if it isn't happening right now, it's happening soon. There is one of your processes that you do to work out, is this fight or flight or reconnect? Is it protect? Is it communicate? Is it recalibrate? You'll be doing that kind of energy because you'll have diagnosed the cycles and what isn't being seen. And you need to do it because, as I say, I think that the people around you, they're kind of exhausted, they're overworked, they're stressed. Depends on when you're listening to this. You can listen to this at any time, but certainly it's being recorded in sort of early to mid 2022. And to me, that this is very much the kind of thing that you can see in quite a few organisations coming off the back of the pandemic and so forth. There's a recalibration and a reworking of things required, and going back to first principles. Now, as I say, that's very time specific, and you may not be listening to this in 2022. But that's the kind of energy I'm seeing then. If it's not sort of something macro like that occurring, then it's something micro. If this is picking up, if you're not in a workplace, this may be in your family, in your closest relationships. There may be a kind of rebalancing that you're needing about where you're putting your energy. It is possible with you, given your nature, that you may sort of look after everybody. And this may be a point of like, maybe you need to rethink and refocus back on your closest relationships. If it's not about work, it's more about service in general. It's like you're out there fighting the good fight for everybody. Maybe you need to sort of think about the energy within your closest relationships. Okay, so let's ask what's going on sort of more externally. So this may also pick up to what degree this is really around career and what degree it's broader. Okay. So there's a couple of things that jump out at me for this. The first thing that jumps out is that we've got 3 kings, 2 of which are reversed. If this is in a workplace, and I'm going to do that first because I think for many, when we're looking at the 6th house, that is what we're going to be seeing. There may be a big jostling for power operating. There could be major sort of structural changes going on, new bosses coming in, other bosses leaving. There could be, as I say, people sort of trying to sort of get one up on somebody and so forth. And I think it looks to me like there might be 3 key contenders for something, and the one who is the coolest head is the one that's going to succeed. So I think it feels quite specific, but I think that there is something about organisational change, and your capacity to deal with that and see what's going on underneath it and communicate, I think is going to be drawn on quite a bit, because there is a really good outcome that could occur if it is handled properly. But if it's not handled properly with the Ace of Cups reversed, then a lot of the promise of the change will be lost. So I think you will be called upon in one form or another to help to make this work out. And it could be a little bit of an uphill battle, Pawan, I have to say, because with 2 reversed kings, I think there's a lot of power stuff going on. You'll be very aware of it and you're strong enough to deal with it, but just be aware that could be happening. I do think that there is a strong ethical person which would connect with you who is likely to come out on top, but they are idealistic. And the other characters here, or this might be one other person with the sort of elements of King of Pentacles and King of Cups, both reversed, so a little bit sort of hazy on the sort of material details and a little bit emotionally all over the shop. They could be putting a bit of a spanner in the works and exhausting other people and taking things out of balance. So I do think that you connecting to somebody who has the same sort of ethics as you can help and can bring out the good opportunity, but it would be wise not to underestimate the impact of this other energy. Now, if this is not a workplace and that's not what's going on, and it's in a relationship, and this is the other thing, it could be around family or relationships in some way, then there is a reckoning to be had about whether a relationship is the right one to have. And it looks as though there's quite a lot of clarity and meeting of the minds around this. So there's a connection, and I'm thinking here more about well-being. So a really good mental connection with something, but it's not as clear about what this looks like materially and emotionally. It does have some prospects. So the reason it would come up in a 6th house reading is that it might be somehow connected to work or to some sort of day-to-day routine. It could be that you are looking to have a more structured day-to-day routine and a more balance of energy and so forth. It might be a little bit out of balance. You could be a workaholic and your partner might be taking up all the sort of home fires burning, or vice versa. There could be something like that. And the issue around it is it could be causing emotional stress. It is able to be fixed, however. So this is either work politics that are operating at the moment and impacting a team, and you have a role and a service to others and fixing it up, or it's about calibrating relationships, friendships around you to make sure that there is a good balance of this and that there are the same expectations so that you can continue to move towards something that is more ideal. Okay, and that's, as I say, going to be more around well-being. So let's have a look in some of those sort of aspects directly. So I'm going to start with the hard code oracles. We'll have a card for career, a card for finance, because that connects with your 2 aspects of the service to others and so forth, and then also a card on wellness or well-being. So firstly, let's have a look and see the energy around career. We have education. So this could mean that part of your communication thing here is that you actually bring all these elements in together and you educate others. You could work in education. Some of you may be in the education system and there might be some issues going on in the workplace around that. There's lots of changes that always happen in the education world, so that is possible. Or it could be that one way to resolve some of these issues are going to be either you educating others about the impact of what's coming, or you seeking some particular type of education, qualification or so forth that puts you into the leadership role rather than these other people, it may be indicating that for some of the people coming here, you are actually a more natural leader, but you're not yet in that position. The people who are there are kind of pretenders to the throne. So it could be suggesting that getting some other form of qualification or skill is going to actually help you sort of step up into that position. Okay, so let's look at finance, because that'll be interesting to see how that connects with maybe a promotion or something like that. Okay, sacrifices. So I do think this is picking up something for some of you around, as I say, your significant other and the balance of what you're trying to do materially in your sort of, both your careers or both your sort of service to others and so forth. There's just a sense here that there is a balance that needs to come in. Are the sacrifices you're making financially towards the good in the longer term? And if that's the case, that's fine. But if not, it may be sort of recalibrating that to make sure that you're still both on the same pathway. If it's more generally about a workplace that is difficult, it could be suggesting that you have to exercise the Harry Houdini escape thing and find the next job because it's not going to resolve, and maybe potentially protect and take other people with you if you can. Okay, and let's look at wellness. Okay, we've got autoimmune. So I think autoimmune comes up in a number of different ways. I mean, you could literally have autoimmune things that you're dealing with on a health level, and that would be very important, not to sort of burn yourself out and so forth. But I always take autoimmune as a sort of allegory as well. I think that the autoimmune is when your own body turns against itself. It thinks that aspects in your body are somehow an invading virus or something like that. It gets overactive in the protection. So this may be saying that one of the things you have to do to get things in balance so that you're not too self-sacrificial is to make sure that you aren't taking on battles that are not your battles, that are not needed to be taken on as a battle, and that sometimes it is okay to walk away. Like, you don't have to fix everything, because it may be that you see everything as a battle because you're so good at it. So it's worth really thinking that through. And maybe even education is partly tilting to that, to understand the sort of difference between what is a battle that is worth fighting and what are ones that are kind of more illusory or that are not strategically good. I mean, you are actually a very, very good strategist. That's part of what you are. But, and they will say, Sun Tzu and all that will say that the great military strategists, for instance, do not go into a battle until they know they can win it. So there just might be something there about making sure you choose your battles wisely. You don't sacrifice yourself too much because you see yourself as always needing to be the protector. And there may be some form of education that can help you with that. Okay, so let's have a look at some practical things that can also help you as well before we move into some fortune energy that's around and the astrology. So there's a couple of practical decks that I wanted to look at for this. The first is The Secret Women's Business. You don't have to be a woman. This is just practical advice around career, business, and so forth. So we'll pull a couple of cards of advice for you for that, pile one. We have Walk. And Yes. Okay. So this says walk forward with courage, strength, and ease. So it certainly means that when you know you're in the right battle, you can walk forward because you are so good at this, and you can, in fact, resolve things, fix things, protect things, do all that sort of stuff. But I think it's also the fact that it fell with sacrifices and Harry Houdini. Sometimes it's okay to walk. Whatever you're thinking about at the moment, about the environment that you're in your career, the answer is yes. So if you're thinking, you know what, it is time to move on, the answer is yes. Like, you can't necessarily jump up and just grab a new job. You have to find one, obviously, because you're a very responsible person. You're not going to just sort of go out without something available. But that could be the answer. Equally, if it is, I could be the leader, I could be the boss, the answer is yes. Or if it's, I can resolve this, the answer is yes. So there's a very positive momentum. For all that there appears to be some tension in your workplace from these cards, there's a positive momentum for whatever you're choosing to do. What I also want to ask is where areas of healing could occur. So this is to pick up more of the health side of the Virgo elements of the 6th house for you. We've got help from above. and dreams. Okay. So I'm getting a couple of things from that. Firstly, you are dialed in, psychically connected, strong guides, all of that sort of energy. So there's something there for you, and it probably comes through dreams. But I think this is also saying get some more rest. I think that you could be a bit of a workaholic, or a causaholic might be more to the point. You take a cause on and you just see it through. And this is probably picking up the autoimmune as well too. It's like, don't work against yourself. So certainly in dreams you're going to get inspirations, but also get some rest. I think that's really important. All right. So we now want to look at these cards, which were the fortune energy, because as I say, we did look a bit with the tarot around what's external, but I do think this house is very externally triggered. So I've got two different fortune decks here with cards that were intuitively pulled for a bit more information around what is, in a sense, out of your control. But if you know about it, you can make decisions. And you're, in fact, the perfect person to use information and make the right decisions. But it's sort of the things that are coming potentially out of left field or that have already manifested. You may be aware of them and that you need to deal with in the sixth house sort of matters. So firstly, we have earth, air, and the hourglass. This is actually very you. Very practical, very earthy, but very clever. So quite apart from everything else, I think it's describing you. Earth says utilize logic, reason, and common sense, because that's what you do anyway. This is how you make these decisions. Is it fight or flight? Is it boundary issues? Is it getting to the unconscious levels of things? Is it just protecting through communication? But you will always use logic, and particularly with air there as well too. This says seek a union of mind and spirit. I do think for some of you, either in a career, probably mainly in a career, but potentially in a relationship, there is someone that there is a very strong peer level, meeting of minds, meeting of equals, and I think that will help you. And then we have the hourglass, time is of the essence. So this is probably why we've got yes. There's something related to one or more aspects of your sixth house, pile one, where it is time to really make a decision about whatever this is. But you have a very good sense of time with cycles there. Okay, so let's get a couple of Chinese fortune elements for you. Work and wisdom. Okay, so you are very work oriented, but that is because you're very wise about work and so forth and about service for others. You will also build your wisdom through work. So whatever occurs in your work, it's happening for a reason. You not only bring wisdom to others and help others, and that's how you protect them and you move them through this stuff, but you actually build your wisdom through doing this. So the external elements here, or the fortune elements, work very much in your favor. The only thing is that, as I say, there's something fairly imminent that you do need to look at. All right, pile one. So to close off, let's look at some other astrology energy around your sixth house, and then we'll use the Astro Chakra cards for a final sort of summation. Okay, sextile. So we'll have a look at what planets are involved in that. Aries and Jupiter. So remember, Jupiter in the sixth house, very idealistic. That's you, very beneficial, very philanthropic. I think it's just picking up your sort of energy. Many of you may well have Jupiter in the sixth house. Certainly you have that sort of energy of kindness and expansion, and it's fortunate. So there is fortune. You will do well out of work because of your wisdom, and Jupiter often represents wisdom as well. So it's really doubling down on that. Aries suggests that you should be a leader. I think that most of you aren't probably there yet, but I think you will end up there because I think your natural abilities will take you to a position of leadership in one form or another. And you're a self-starter with Aries as well. Let's do the planets for the sextile. So I'm just going to shuffle and then I'm going to deal out till I get planets. Sextile is an aspect of ease. So this is some planetary energy that's going to help you with what you're doing in this house. We have Neptune, and Venus. Okay, so Neptune was picking that advice from above. There is definitely channeled energy coming to you, spiritual advice and so forth that helps you sort of navigate all of this. It does suggest that what you love, the more that you work in something that you love and have an ideal or an ethical basis to it, and this is picking up Jupiter as well, the easier you will find the environment. I think that, however, I'm getting that the kind of almost contradiction in this reading is that you kind of deserve that. You deserve to have an ideal energy and love and happiness and also in your sort of like, health and immediate environment and routine. But you are also drawn towards protecting others. I mean, that's partly about love and protecting others in things that are not clear. But I sense almost as though what is going to happen with you, Pile 1, is that you will find yourself in workplaces or causes where you have to sort this stuff out for other people, and you do it from a place of love and to clarify for them. But it's more like, I feel like later in your life you may then, as a reward, get to do what you really want to do yourself, get to do what you really love. So, and it may well be using similar sorts of skills, but I just feel like there's slightly, this might be the sacrifices that we had around finance and career, that there may be a bit of a delay on that because you have a cause to fill and you are building your wisdom through doing it. But that ultimately, that idealism and caring that you bring to things, I think it will reward you with Jupiter. I think that you are going to get there, but I feel like that's a little bit later in your life than possibly most of you that are coming here now. If you are later in your life, then you do it. And maybe the yes is now it's time to do what you really want to do. So I hope that resonated for you, Pile 1. I hope you enjoyed it. If so, please like the video and subscribe, and love to hear about it in the comments if you care to share. Beyond that, I hope to see you in future episodes of this series and more generally in future readings. Actually, sorry, Pile 1, I just started to sort of pack this up to do the next reading, then I realised I hadn't done the Astro Chakra card, so I will put in an addendum to this. I do this every once in a while, I don't know why. But I'm just going to do 3 Astro Chakra cards now for you as well. And sorry, I'd already started to move that over to be Pile 2, but you're Pile 1. So, okay. So we have communication, the heart chakra, and the sun chakra. See, I think this is picking up what I was talking about before with the astrology cards, and unfortunately I've just started to pack those up. But I feel like you are ultimately moving to do something that you really love. There will be a connection between your service to others and your career and what you love, and that will really be your purpose in life. But it's like, first of all, you communicate that love to others and help others. It's like, I really have a strong feeling like there's a reward that comes to you because of what you do and the sacrifices that you make and the issues that you deal with. So and Venus and the sun in the heart chakra, it's like having those conjuncts. So we had Venus and Neptune sextile in the astrology energy, and then we have Venus and the sun conjunct. That would effectively make the sun sextile Neptune as well too. So this is the high ideals. So I do feel that from using your communication skills in your work, you actually spread love to others, and your reward is going to be love, which is a really nice ending. So I'm glad that I remembered before packing it all up to do your Astro Chakra cards for you. So again, I hope to see you in future readings, Pile 1. Welcome, Pile 2, to your reading. So these cards are around your service to others. These cards are around your day-to-day routine and work. We will also have some cards to look at the bridge, the connection between the two. Your cards here are really interesting. Around service to others, we have the Blue Lady, nothing is impossible, a sense of the expansive, the broad. And so you want to enable others. You want to make sure that people can be all that they could be. It would be an ideal card for somebody who wanted to be a coach or a mentor or an educator or something like that. You are about expanding things. You could also work in the spiritual sort of areas and so forth, because what your service to others is in empowerment, empowering others. But it's deeper than that. It comes from a wisdom with King Solomon here. You bring wisdom to others. It's not just a sort of light and airy, isn't this nice, we can all manifest type of feeling. There is a heft behind it. And it feels as though there's almost a genealogical thing, like it might have been something that was in your family line or something in your culture with blood there, runs very deeply for you. Your wisdom is about the expansion, about how to really do things. It's about enabling people. So you would not necessarily come and just do things for people as a service. You might initially, but in doing it, it would be to be teaching others to do it and for getting them to see what they could do. That's what I'm saying. I feel like a coach, a mentor, that sort of thing. You're very much about expansion. You're also potentially about broader issues for, the world, the community, the universe in a way. It's like a very expanded sort of energy about not saying no, working the way through rather than giving up. And the tenacity of blood, that sense of the life force, is about expansion and about doing it. I'm actually getting I'm getting a sort of sense of like marathon runners and Olympic champions and things. There's this sort of sense of breaking records. It's about demonstrating to the world in some way what is possible, and that could be at whatever level this is for you. It could be just within your family, around really helping your family expand their horizons with blood there, but it could be really on the world stage, setting records, doing things like that, bringing in the new, making people realize that wisdom is seeing how to do things, not saying all the reasons that you can't do it. And the interesting thing is, over in your work, it's like you almost have to surrender with this energy some of the vision to show people the skill. There's money that you can make, and you make money from skill areas, your skills, and I think enabling other skills. So, and it's almost, this is why it feels like coaching and mentoring. It's like your role, whatever your role is more about being a bit hands-off and inspiring and bringing others along. You have high degrees of skill to do it. You're highly wise, with King Solomon, about one of the most wise figures in human history. And then you have, look here, with skill, with using your skill in a really good way and a really tempered way, and surrendering the ego. You're not about ego at all. You're about everybody. It's about, sort of the rising tide lifts all boats. You're that kind of person. And you will make money out of it. You can do it as a career. You can do it, in any way, as a business. You could write about it. You could do anything. But it's that surrendering of the ego to the skill. I remember seeing a movie once where a particular character was saying to somebody about winning, that the winners don't think about winning the race, they just love the race. That's the kind of feeling that you get from this. It's like you surrender the ego to just let the skill speak for itself, and also then to bring other people up. So it's a really interesting energy about how you do it. I wouldn't be surprised if you had Aquarius or maybe Aries in the 6th house. It's just something new, and it's pushing things forward, fiery energy, philosophical energy, something like that. You don't have to, but they feel like something like that could be the case. Or you could have Uranus in the 6th house, something that sort of brings things forward and expands things in some way. Maybe even Pluto in its own way, transformative. Okay, so let's see what cards here are about connecting these two for you. So you have level 9 consciousness, mature soul. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. Oops. And Morgan Le Fay, magic. Okay, yeah, so there is something magic about you. I mean, King Solomon was a magician. King Solomon, the keys of Solomon was from him. So very high order, high magic, high angelic connections and so forth. So there's something in your skill that is magical. Whether or not you show it overtly in your day-to-day life, it would depend on what you did. If you do stuff that's spiritual and so forth, if you ran a metaphysical shop, for instance, then you'd show it. But it may be that you couch it in other forms of skill and other forms of sort of modalities and so forth, like, I don't know, NLP or something in your day-to-day work. But there's magic about it. You are meant to transform people. This is who you are. Your service to others is to transform people and make them more of what they could be. And you are meant to be a leader to do this, and you are mature enough to do it. That's why you can let go of your ego. You'd almost be one of those people who was absolutely delighted if everybody who ever worked for them then did better than them. That would be the mark of success to you. So that's the energy you're bringing in, and your skill is in surrendering and just doing it. But it will reward you. It will reward you. Okay, so that's pretty exciting, I must say. Let's have a look and see what the tarot has to say. So we're firstly going to look at what's happening right now around your 6th house energies, and then we're going to sort of ask about what external factors might be influencing your 6th house at the moment. So firstly, Spirit, what's going on for pile 2 in their 6th house at the moment? Okay, so Spirit is saying that for you at the moment, and this is a big journey that you're talking about, I think you're in a point right now when you've come to this reading of sort of stepping back and recalibrating. It does look as though a lot of your energy is being sapped by other people, and you may need to renegotiate it. So for instance, if you're a coach, you might have people who think that means they can ring you up every day and ask questions. You know, there might be a sort of thing about putting some boundaries around it. It could also be, with the Seven of Swords there, that you've been dealing with a work environment or something that you're doing in your business that has been a bit duplicitous. So you're kind of a little bit waylaid off to the side at the moment about sorting through that. In fact, with the Three of Wands reversed, it might even be that business partners were not the right business partners, or work colleagues are not turning out to be what they said they were. There's some sort of like battle going on that is sapping some of your strength. It's taking you away from your true service and sixth house type of approach. And what Spirit is saying is it's okay to withdraw from that a bit. That you don't want to get too caught up in the petty battles, because you're above the petty battles, Pile 2. What you're doing is far more transformative and far more important than to get caught up in sort of what looks like petty office politics, or, you know, if it's happening sort of more in your sort of friendship circle, community circle. It's just a bit of rubbish going on by the looks of things. So Spirit is saying right now, get yourself some time out to reconsider things, to connect back with your sort of mystical side. I don't think that this is of long duration. I think it's just going on at the moment, and it's just Spirit wanting to say you don't have to stay in the middle of all this rubbish. You really are above it. Okay, so let's get a little bit more detail on this, I think, because we're going to ask what's going on externally that's impacting your sixth house. And I think we're starting to see a bit of it already, but let's see what else Spirit wants to tell us. Yeah, I think for most of you right now, and this isn't the arc of your overall sort of sixth house, because you're too skilled, you're too wise, but right now there's been some sort of a battle, definitely. The worst is probably over, but there's still some residual sort of like almost obsessive sort of stuff tapping your strength. There may be a thing here, I think, and this might be why we had surrender here, where you need to let go if you felt like I should have been able to navigate that. I should have been able to use my magic better. There's something so petty and transitory about this that Spirit is saying that you shouldn't get obsessed about that. You should just let that energy dissipate. There was something unjust. There was something that wasn't what it should have been. And it has meant that something hasn't fully realised its potential. Someone hasn't that you tried to coach, a coaching business to start with, something in the workplace, whatever it is. But the only real issue for you is if you stay stuck in that energy. That's why withdrawal in whatever way you can would work. Things are going to come to the surface. You are going to be proven right, or you are at least going to be sort of separated out of it so that you don't take any of the fallout from it. The people who were doing the wrong thing, that is going to become clear. But at this point in time, it's better to withdraw and not to sort of stay in this nervous energy, because certainly in terms of well-being, which is also part of the sixth house, because of the degree of passion you have for what you do, if you're feeling stuck, then that could cause nervous exhaustion and so forth. You need to sort of take the time out. Okay, so let's see if we can get a little bit more specific detail by looking at, from the Heart Code Oracles, a card about career, a card about finance, and a card about wellness. So firstly, career energy, day-to-day work energy. Strength. So I think because strength is being sort of sapped from you at the moment. I think that Spirit just wants to remind you that your strengths are above this, whatever this is. So I kept feeling you're above this petty rubbish. So try to withdraw from it to the degree that you can. All right, let's have a look at finances, because that can impact. I mean, overall, again, you should actually do well with money, but you know, this could be a bit of a hiccup. So let's just see what's happening around finances at the moment for you. It says feasibility. So it may be part of the thing about withdrawing, maybe deciding, is this still something you could turn around and bring out what its potential was, or is it something particularly financially that isn't really going to have a return on investment? So I think that might be just saying it's an assessment that you need to make at the moment, because you are able to expand things, grow things, and probably turn them around. You could in fact be a brilliant person that comes into organisations and turns them around business-wise. But you really need to work out whether the amount of rubbish that's been going on has sapped all the potential, or whether that could be turned around. Let's also look at wellness for how you're tracking when you're, as I say, in a bit of a glitch period, I think, around your overarching sort of career and service to others. But I do think it's transitory. I very strongly feel it's transitory. Around wellness for you at the moment, we have self-medicating. So don't do that. Don't think I can just sort of, have a glass of wine every night and it's all going to be fine. I think you're too wise for that. But if you blame yourself, because I think one of the things you do have to be aware of, Paul, too, is because you are such a visionary, you may take on too much responsibility for this. As I say, what's been going on is kind of beneath you in many ways. So don't get too trapped in it. That's your one sort of issue where you could sap your own strength. You have so many strengths. Don't forget that. Okay, so now we want to get some practical advice around two elements of the sixth house. So firstly, I'm using the Secret Women's Business deck. You don't have to be a woman for this, but this is to get a little bit more around the career as well. And I do think for most of you, this is around career stuff we're seeing here, career or business. Actually, before we do that, I'm sorry, I almost forgot. There's also one other thing, which is the other external factors, which is sort of fortune around this. So this is to see what is kind of outside of your control, but other factors you need to bring in, and then we'll move to the advice. So firstly, we have the Serpent. A sly and subtle approach is needed. Yes, and a little bit of withdrawal. It's sort of like there's something not quite right in the environment that you're in. We've got the Wyvern. Your secrets are safe, so you don't worry. You know what you're doing. You're very wise, so it's not like you are going to find that you're caught in the middle of this. You're only going to get caught in the middle of this, pile two, if you put yourself in the middle of it, to be frank. And then we have the Queen, love and prosperity. So ultimately, it's not going to stop you in your development. You are on a trajectory towards good success around your career and your money and so forth. Then we have from the Chinese thing, yin and yang and reunions. Okay, so there could be something here, and maybe it's not even about your career, though I think it could be all connected. It may well be that once the balance is re-established here, there are reunions with people that you can go forward with. This might have to do with the feasibility. All is not lost in this situation at all. I mean, you have too much skill anyway, but it could be suggesting that once things are back in balance, there are reunions. It could also be saying that part of bringing the balance is spending time with friends and others, or with people that you worked with before that could take something forward for you. So as I say, let's now move to the Secret Women's Business and see what advice there is for you around your career. Stay focused. Time out. Yeah, time out's really important. And stay focused on the big picture, I think. Don't stay focused on this petty rubbish, because it's just draining you, and as I say, you're above it. But take the time out that you need. This is not going to affect your ultimate business viability, career viability, whatever it is. As I say, you're too much a motivational person and too much big picture to be held back by this, but it can drain your energy. So stay focused on the big picture and take time out from all the rubbish. We also want to use the Heal Yourself cards to see around well-being, and I think it could also be around some of this energy that you're dealing with at the moment, Paul, too. So let's see what other advice Spirit has for you. Family and tribe and rejection. Okay, so I think there's a couple of things here. One is that because of blood, as I said, some of you, this is very much a family ancestral thing. That could be very, very key, and that could be part of your big picture. And reconnecting with that may be something that helps you if you feel like you've been taken a little bit aside. There could also have been some rejection of what you were trying to do in this petty rubbish, because honestly, The feeling I have from this is what's going on. If you tried to bring your big picture ideas, they probably would get rejected because the people are not at the level to understand it. The other possibility for some of you is that some of this bigger picture has been because you felt rejected from your family line. So you are creating a new family line, a new tribe and so forth. So it sort of depends. But so family is either something that you're creating yourself to deal with rejection that wasn't fair, or it may be that they help you because you're dealing with petty rubbish at the moment. Either way, it's understanding why the rejection occurred. If the rejection occurred in your family and tribe, it was because you were beyond them. If the rejection is occurring in your day-to-day work, it's because you're beyond them. And once you understand that, you can start to heal. Okay, so what we lastly want to do is we want to look at some astrology and then the astro chakra card. So just some other advice for you before we close out the reading with the astro chakra cards. So some more astrology energy that's around your 6th house at the moment, pile 2. We have the moon, Venus, and Saturn. So we've got 3 planets. That's a really interesting set of planets actually for you. Saturn is the structure that you can bring to things. Moon is the sort of expansive, gentle energy, and this Venus is the love. You really do love what you're doing, and you really can make it into something. This is definitely saying that. But at the moment, I feel with the moon, it's just saying that there's a dimmer light shining at the moment. There's a lot of ego rubbish, because if you think about it, the moon gets light reflected from the sun. I feel as though there's that is a kind of an allegory here, an analogy to the energy you're dealing with. It's a lesser radiance than yours. I feel like you're the sun and the moon energy is there. So don't let that draw you down. Just because you love people and you want everybody to be empowered, some are not ready. Some are not wise enough. Some cannot meet the King Solomon at all with you, will not even understand you. So it's really about finding the right people. Okay, so to finish off pile 2 for your 6th house, we're just going to draw 3 astro chakra cards to see how it all comes together. The solar plexus, the root chakra, and the throat chakra. Okay, so solar plexus is obviously about your power in the world, and we have the moon here. So it's interesting. You have a very strong psychic connection, actually, that's saying. So the moon, when it's operating well for you, is helping your sense of self. It's your nurturing energy. It's part of who you are to nurture and grow other people. But you do need to protect yourself in it. So you need to think at a base level, where are you using your energy? Where are you putting the sun, the life path, and so forth? Your vitality, your energy levels. That's why time out was important. You are getting drawn into emotional stuff that is not helping you help others. Your communication skills will be really called upon, and with Mars there, that says that's where your ambition and drive will come from, when you want it, when you know what you want to communicate. And part of that is about what your life direction is. So your life direction is about the foundations of things and expanding the foundations of things. But you do need to calibrate your own emotions, I think, with this, and you want to give to everybody, but not everybody is ready to receive what you have to give. So I hope that that resonates for you, pile 2, because I think what you do is really, really important, and I would hate to think that you were feeling discouraged because of petty rubbish. Just remember you're above it. You'll go through that cycle. You'll come through it. There's some really powerful things that you're here to do, and I just hope that you feel encouraged to do them. I also hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe if you haven't already done so. And beyond that, if you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear about it. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future episodes of this series and in future readings in more detail or in more general. So I'll see you soon. Welcome, pile 3, to your reading. So these 3 cards are around your service to others. These are around your day-to-day routine and workplace and career and that sort of thing. We will be looking at some bridging energy between the two as well. You are interesting, pile 3, because you are the natural born truth teller. You are somebody who is way ahead of the curve and can see what's coming, like to the point that you're sort of prophetic about what's coming in a workplace, in an environment, in a community, whatever it might be. With the Dawn Watcher here, you are always on guard. you look out for what needs to be done, and where things are not working as they should be working with taboo, where things are getting into a kind of a power area or something that's inappropriate, you bring through with St. Jude a sense of grace and harmony and so forth, which then manifests over here around your career. So you are the person who knows way ahead of other people when, say, in a political environment, something's going from democracy to totalitarianism, as an example. You will see it ahead of time. You are a truth teller. You will ring the alarm in some way. And it may be that sometimes people see you as just angry or sort of like, shouting from the pulpit, but you're actually about harmony and about bringing things into better balance and fair balance. So, and you may well, in fact, do a career where you take sort of anger management or take sort of like contested environments and bring them into harmony and bring them to a negotiated outcome. So some of this energy, which is about understanding the weave of what's coming and being able to stop the more negative energies before they come in, to bring in the saving grace, to stop things getting to a level that is out of control or difficult for you, those you care about, the community or whatever. May be that you actually do it in a career where you can actually pour oil on troubled waters, bring harmony and bring a balance in. But as I say, for some of you, depending on how you manifest this, if this is sort of like you're a kind of a journalist or someone who is, like on YouTube telling people about, what's going on in the world or something, some people may mistake what you do for some form of anger or power thing yourself, when in actual fact you're about harmony and balance and bringing things into a better sort of sense of accord. Very, very interesting energy. Your sixth house is about dealing with what or stopping what shouldn't be done, like really having that kind of watcher sort of energy and making sure that bad regimes can't rise. And certainly I feel with Typhon there, with the anger and rage, there is a possibility for you that if you feel in your workplace you can't bring the harmony, or if you feel that you can't work on that sort of thing in your work, that in your work it's more about day-to-day sort of clerical paperwork, staying put, just kind of, and you really want to deal with the bigger issues, then there is maybe a sort of like a frustration. And remember that anger can become depression when it is not able to be released. So there is a secondary thing here that says that you probably at some point in your life, if you haven't already, need to position yourself in some sort of a way where you can take this message out, because otherwise you will turn that disturbance with the world inward, and that will have its own sort of negative sort of mental health type of issues and so forth to deal with. So it's just the whiplash of caring that much about what's happening to the world is that you need to find a place in your day-to-day to be able to express it and do something about it. So let's see what the bridge is between the two to see if that helps. So we have Hecate, illumination. Yes, you'll bring things to the surface. You are not the sort of person who's going to turn a blind eye when something is going wrong in a workplace or politically. You will speak the truth, whether people like it or not. And as I say, some will project on you that this is just anger or power, but that's not where you're coming from. We have hard work and community. So yeah, for you, it's all about the community. It's all about the body politic. Very much a sense of community work, political work, journalist, something like that is the natural thing for you. If you just go into some sort of 9-to-5 job, I mean, you can pay the bills with it. There's nothing wrong with a 9-to-5 job, but for someone like you, that will be really suppressing where your true energy is, your true heart is. You're prepared to put in the hard yards to do it. You've got no problem with that. You want communities to be balanced and fair. Okay, so we need people like you, pole 3, but it's not an easy path necessarily. So let's get tarot, and let's firstly ask where you're at with all of this at the moment. What is happening in your 6th house sort of energies right at this moment? Okay, the fact that we've got all of those reversed, that very much suggests to me at the moment that many of the people who come here, well, there's two things. Firstly, it's either or maybe both, but let's say either or for the moment. Either you aren't in a sort of workplace or a career at the moment where you can really express the truth that you see. It's either a workplace where you just can't talk about that, or it's a workplace that's not involved in that, or you're just finishing sort of study and you've yet to get a job or something like that. But there's certainly a sense here of you want to do the battle, you want to take your sort of vision out there, you want to bring things into balance, you want to end strife, you want to sort of ignite your own creative energy and so forth, but it's all kind of suppressed for some reason. So I am feeling that for some of you, this sort of writing clerical paperwork sort of side of things down here might be saying that many of you are not in exactly the right sort of job for you in the longer term. That doesn't mean you have to sort of run out and drop the job tomorrow. You have to pay the bills, you have to do all those sort of things. But thinking about a job where that fire for the truth and illumination and harmony and dealing with it's almost like fighting the beast system in a way. That's what you need to be looking at to truly build the vocational side of your sixth house, and to not, as I say, have your frustration with some of those things in the world getting in the way so that you feel depressed rather than sort of revitalized by it. With the Ten of Swords reversed, I think that's a good sign. It suggests that I think that you've come to an aha moment about this. You haven't yet fully determined with the Page of Wands and the Ace of Wands what you want to do. You just know there's a fire under you, but you don't know exactly what that is yet. You've yet to determine that. That's fine. You don't have to know that right now. I feel with most of you, this is a much longer term thing that you will evolve into. But there's something around you at the moment which is sort of petty, competitive, and where things are not in balance. It's almost like you may be in a workplace or in an educational system or something where you're sort of already seeing the abuses of power that you are one day going to be the major champion against. But it's yet to happen, I think. I feel like it's suppressed. Or you are trying to do it at the moment and you're getting censored, for instance. You're trying to sort of get a word out on the various social media platforms, but what you're saying is not what the body politic wants to hear, so it's being censored. There's something like that going on for you at the moment. So let's see a little bit more about what external factors are impacting you in the sixth house at the moment, pile 3. Okay, so for many of you, there is a sense of needing to provide for others potentially. So many of you may have family that you're looking after, or something of that sort of ilk, or you're feeling that in terms of your current job, in terms of money and so forth, you're getting a fair sort of wage for what you're doing. This may be part of the issue. It's not really what you'd love to do. It's not really what you're called to do, but it is kind of paying the bills, and you are a fairly loyal person. Even if you're feeling in that workplace that there's something. Though I feel for most of you, it's probably not likely to be in the workplace you're in with these cards. I feel like it's more that you're for a bigger stage and you're looking at the world in a broader level and community in a different level. But it looks like at the moment one of the things that influences you is that work-wise, either you're in a good job for money and recognition and so forth, or you've got the qualifications you need and you're about to move into something like that. So that's one of the things that's influencing how quickly you move into this bigger service sort of energy that you have. And part of this mental tension is trying to work out how do you get free enough to do that. And I think that you are starting to think that through. It may even be that you found a mentor or something like that, or a support in your workplace who has similar ideals, and you're starting to see that there's a capacity with external people to find the right people. Certainly you have a sense of something that's emotionally resonant right now around you, and it's got to do with coming out of this discord and so forth, or even bringing love and harmony into something that has discord and is sort of very tense. So there's a philosophical shift that's happening, but I feel like it's because of a material benefit. But I think there could be a bit of a trap around this. It's like really determining how long you stay in that space, because there's something bigger that you're meant to be doing, I think, pile 3. Okay, so let's have a look at some other external fortune around you before we start looking at some areas of advice. So we have the wolf, beware who you trust. The black cat, your luck will soon change. And the griffin, honor and good luck. So good luck is coming. So if you felt a bit stuck, something's going to happen. There is an issue about who to trust. I don't think it's in your workplace though. It may be around other causes and so forth, or it might be really just that you are very aware of the wolf at the door on a political or community level. But certainly as you move more into who you're really meant to be, Pile 3, you do have to be careful about who to trust. It's like, I feel like where you are at the moment, it's okay. But if you want to move to this higher level, and I think you're going to have to, I think you're driven to do that, you do have to get very savvy about that sort of thing. But there's good luck coming to you and there's honor for what you do. So certainly it's suggesting you will be rewarded as you move more and more into being this truth teller, this person who illuminates. Okay, so the Chinese fortune, challenges and marriage. Okay, so certainly you are choosing a challenging path. There is no two ways about it. But I think you would get bored, to be frank, without a challenge. That's part of the issue, I think, around your current workplace. It's kind of stable and good, but it's not necessarily going to be the challenge that you want. It is interesting, we've got marriage here with the Ace of Cups. It could be that an external factor that starts to make you think about who you want to be in the world has to do with meeting someone with a similar sort of passion. So it may be that a connection to another, whether it's literally marrying or whether it's a love connection, or even if it's just more like a connection and working something, a collaboration, there's a connection that is more connected to your heart and more connected to who you are, I think, coming into the play. I think it's different to whoever this kind of benefactor is. I feel that's more in the educational day-to-day stuff at the moment as opposed to what you're going to develop into. All right, so let's use the Heart Code Oracles and let's look at career, finances and wellness to cover off the three key elements around the sixth house. So firstly, a card for career at the moment for you. This came up for somebody else, actually, another of the reading, strengths. So you have some real strengths. And I do think you're very good at whatever you're doing, or if you're about to go into a career, you're likely to get a job pretty quickly and you'll be very good at it. I just think, though, that you've got even bigger strengths than that. It should be a platform at most for what you're really meant to do in the world. And think about what your strengths are. Don't shortchange yourself. Okay, for finances. Okay, we've got envy. Okay, so for some of you, this sort of sense of the material stuff around you, could come from privilege. You could be in a very well-paid job at the moment, and this is sort of an issue because if you move into something else, and there could be, and this is be careful who you trust, that some people envy you and they try and, as I say, make out that you're just a sort of angry person who's beating a drum rather than someone who comes from a bigger ethical place. You may have to deal with people who envy what you do and try and turn that against you. So it's just be aware there's a bit of envy around your material situation now or the prospects that people think you might have. And then let's look at wellness. And we've got recovery. So that would probably just suggest that, well, it suggests two things to me. One is that some of you may have been through a battle already and you're kind of in a more sort of recovered, settled space, or you've been dealing with something, that's the prototype of your bigger battle and you're sort of recovering from that and learning what your strengths are. Others, it may literally be that when you're coming here that you're recovering from something. So give yourself the time to do that if that's the case. Don't feel like you have to shift before you're ready to shift if that's the case. Okay, so let's get some practical advice, or a bit more practical advice around career using the Secret Women's Business deck. So you don't have to be a woman for this. It's just a deck that's really about business and work more generally. Financial review. Create a system. Okay, so I think, as I say, I think that there's sort of good money or good prospects of money around you. I think this is saying that if you want to move into what you do and have a platform for what you do, then, doing a review of your finances and maybe it's, could you go to part-time? Can you afford to do that, for instance? And maybe you can if people are envious of your money, so that you can actually start to do something in this other space as a sort of side gig potentially, or it could be a financial review about when you could be ready to do more and so forth. And this is suggesting with create a system that you could create something that allowed you to do a bit of both, to have the stability and the money, but also to start to look at what your bigger vocation is. So to do that, pile 3, it's important that you also heal within yourself anything that you need to heal, and particularly as we did have recovery here. So let's see what around the wellness side of the 6th house Spirit suggests that you think about. Cycles. Say what you mean. Okay, you're going to say what you mean, but I think it is sort of saying that is part of your mental health, your sort of emotional health. It's like your message is important, and as I said, if you don't do something with that, you have that kind of issue that it could affect you sort of emotionally and make you depressed if you can't say what you mean. Cycles suggest, I think, all around the financial and work thing, that there are processes and cycles as you can build to this. And once you start to understand those, you can protect yourself on a day-to-day level around money, around resources, and if you are connecting with someone else, marriage or family or whatever, connect and protect all of that, so that you can also have the system to allow you to say what you mean. And then you're letting that energy out, because this energy is too strong to keep bottled up forever. It just might be a thing about timing for when it's safe to do that. Okay, so last but not least, pile 3, we want to look at some astrology energy around your 6th house, and then use the Astro Chakra cards to bring it all together. So firstly, what other sort of astrological energy is relevant for pile 3 in relation to their 6th house? So the 8th house, okay, Pluto, and the South Node. Wow, okay. So the 8th house, it's interesting, there's a couple of things around that. The 8th house is the Scorpio house. It goes deep, it sees everything underneath. It's the person who will see the stuff, and knows when things are taboo and so forth. So there's something forensic about what you do. There's something at the depths, and there's something very transformative. You're meant to be here to transform. I think primarily through bringing harmony and protection from things that would otherwise have gone off the rails. But you aren't meant to just sit forever in just a comfortable job. Sorry, pile 3, but you're just not. You are also meant to be helping the world move away from what it should no longer want to do. The South Node is that energy of the past and what shouldn't be repeated. And so I think there's almost within you, in seeing what's going on politically, socially, whatever it is, there's a sense of history could repeat, and you are part of the transformation to bring that to the surface and to make sure it doesn't happen. So you're here with a very big purpose, pile 3. So let's see what Astro Chakra energy can help bring all this together for you. So we've got the root chakra, the throat chakra, and the sacral chakra, which I think actually gives us a narrative. So we start with the foundations of your life. You do need to feel secure. This is why I feel as though there's sort of a balance. You can sort of stay doing the sort of things in your work that give you money and financial things, create your system, have your plan, so that you don't get deflected and you don't feel you have to give up the fight because of finances. There's something about that. That's why you're allowed to take time to do this. This is a bigger picture thing than what's happening right now. Because otherwise, because you're very emotionally connected to the concept of security and harmony and balance, it will throw you off. So getting that in place, getting yourself fit for doing this is important and is fine. Then you can start to communicate the transformation with Pluto in the throat chakra. You revitalize places, you bring them back into harmony and so forth. And that brings you into your own power and your individuality with Uranus in the solar plexus chakra. And you are a nonconformist. This is the thing. You actually see what's underneath the sort of political sort of processes of the world and all that kind of thing. You have a revolutionary and an evolutionary energy that you're meant to bring. But that's the thing. Look after yourself first. Make sure that you're fine. Then start to communicate your vision, because that really brings you into who you are in terms of your vocation, your service to others. And it also looks after your own well-being as you do it. So I hope that resonates for you, pile 3. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. And if you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear about how it connected for you. Beyond that, I hope to see you in future episodes of this series and more generally in future readings. Welcome, Pile 4, to your reading. So these cards are around your service to others, and these cards are around the day-to-day routine and job or career. And then we were going to have a look at some cards to bridge, to connect them. The interesting thing for you is that there is a high degree of connection between your relationships, your love nature, love in general, love for lovers, friends, community, the world, whatever it is, and what you do in your life. And it has a very, very spiritual aspect to it. In fact, I think this is the group that will be best served in their day-to-day life, their career, their routine, if it has a very strong spiritual and heart-centered approach. You're not so much about making money, though you may well, and in fact it suggests that you will do quite well by whatever you do in your day-to-day career, particularly if it connects to these sorts of energies. But you're not really about the money, it's almost a byproduct. You're not even about yourself in terms of health, though again, it's a byproduct of having a high vibration, of having the connection with others and so forth, and being prepared to go on the pilgrimage, to go on the journey to get that, to find that. You are likely to actually, in fact, make yourself very, very physically fit, though you may, with this card over here, in terms of your day-to-day life or even in terms of your health, some of you may have a bit of a challenge in some way like that. There could be a health challenge, there could be a disability that you deal with, there could be something like that, but you will find the way out of it and around it with this energy, so that's good, but it is a possibility. And it may be partly what has made you highly empathic, because you come very much from your heart. You become the person that looks after and connects others. With Saint Valentine, which is about divine love and divine connection and so forth, and then the lovers here from the Oracle of the Dragonfly, you've really got that sense of like love being at the core of everything. Some of you may, in your 6th house, in your service to others, in your career, work with someone or be on a cause with someone that you love. There could be a connection, a divine union or something like that, that is part of the engine room that propels you towards really living the potential of your 6th house. For others, as I say, it's like there is a journey that you go on to redeem love and connection between others and to raise a higher vibration for people so that everybody can win, so that everybody can come out of, can ascend or do whatever that is. And as I say, with Nuada there, that is a god who only went into his leadership and kingship once he had the replacement for an arm, a part of his arm that had been lost. He had an iron replacement. So that's why I feel that some of you may start off with a disadvantage in some way physically, but you are going to, because of your vibration, your love energy, rise above that and possibly be a symbol to others of being able to do that. So, you could be someone who's neurodivergent and yet you rise to some very high prominent position because of kind of a combination of actually using that difference, but also having that greater empathy and understanding of the world that comes from having been that bit different. It's that kind of feeling to it. Deeply spiritual as well. So you may have Pisces in the 6th house or Neptune in the 6th house, possibly Venus in the 6th house because of the great sense of love around all of this. I think that's a very strong possibility for you. Possibly Cancer in the 6th house as well for the sort of protective sort of energy and loving energy and so forth. But in any case, regardless of whether that's the case, you are about love, you are about higher vibration, you are about spirituality. And if you are not serving that as part of your day-to-day work, you will find it very demoralizing and tiring and so forth, because you need to have that sort of lifeblood to be really feeling that you're actually living your 6th house in a productive way. So let's have a look at the bridge between the two. So between the love, the pilgrimage, the journey for love, the journey for what is love, to the higher vibration, lifting everybody, perfecting and finding what is beautiful and difference and diversity and so forth. So the connection between it, we have White Buffalo Woman, who is a symbol of peace and a symbol of beauty and dignity and so forth. So there is something very dignified about you. There is something very peaceful and something that people, the White Buffalo Woman in the story was not initially recognized for being the goddess that she was, Eventually she was, but at first she wasn't. I feel there's something here. I think that there is something about you where maybe you didn't have love when you, or weren't appreciated when you were young. Maybe, as I say, you're different, but your journey towards love and self-acceptance is somehow a journey for everybody. We have new territory. So yes, you break new territory. And career success. So yes, you are going to be successful. The very things that maybe drove this pilgrimage for love and for connection and for recognition because of your difference are going to be the thing that is such a symbol to others that brings you success. So, but that is what you need to do to be successful. You need to break new territory. You need to show that being different is actually a positive thing, different in whatever way it is. You need to raise the vibration spiritually and from the heart around people. That is where you're going to find success. And if you have to travel a bit to find that, if you have to move jobs a few times to find that, it will take you to where you need to be. You may also, I'm getting, find the love of your life through your career in some way. So okay, let's have a look with tarot around what's going on right now around the energies of your 6th house. Okay, a lot of really powerful sort of energy here. The sun, I think, is excellent. That is showing that I think if there has been some degree of feeling different, left out, alone or whatever, you're coming out of that. You're coming into your own. Something has happened, whether it's in your career, whether it's in your study, whether it's in your sort of family, your love life, or whether, for some of you it could be a very, very strong match. You may have found the great love of your life potentially with these cards. And that person is very empathic towards you as well too and has a similar vision of what love should be if that's the case. If not, I think you're starting to call that energy in. You're starting to realize what is beautiful in you so that you can call that energy in. And it's because you've actually taken a different perspective to things. And that's partly because there's something different about you. And whatever that is giving you the way to redefine what you love and who you are in the world. There's something that you were working on or developing towards that isn't really giving you what you want, and it's partly that grit that creates the pearl in an oyster. There's partly that sort of sense of this isn't quite fitting or I'm not quite fitting that is actually going to take you into the sunlight and into your heart. So it is very much saying that you're coming to that aha moment, that the thing that maybe you felt was your disadvantage or you were too different or whatever is the very thing that is actually going to bring you into the spotlight and really bring you the sort of career success, the love, all of those sort of things. They're coming together in some way. And I do think many of you will find your love through your career or through your service to others, if not your career at some point, if not already. Okay, so let's have a look at what external factors are impacting on your 6th house at the moment. Okay, so this is interesting. I mean, there's so much around relationship here, and this is because that's who you are. If you have not met this, you may have met this person. I wouldn't be surprised. But if you haven't, you're going to. But you are in the process of actually letting go of some sort of relationship or love energy that didn't work out. This is what the 7 of Pentacles is referring to, I believe, because love is so strongly part of this. It's part of your high vibration. And here we have the King of Wands reverse and the Lovers reverse. There has been a relationship around you that was not what you wanted it to be, definitely. So that... And you know, it doesn't have to be a love relationship. It could be a work relationship or something like that. It helps you to define what you want. This is the point that the cards are saying, that you become closer to your heart and closer to who you are by defining who you are and who you're not through the filter of who would you love, who would you connect with, and so forth. It has slowed you down a bit, whatever this situation was, whoever this person was or this environment you're in, slowed you down a bit with the Chariot reversed and made you feel a little bit off kilter. But I think it was positive. I think it's exactly this that brought you to the Hangman, where you got the new perspective and so forth. And it's giving you a new sense of hope and inspiration. I mean, the star and the sun together is beautiful. But it's just letting go of the emotional debris of whatever didn't work out, whether it was a job, whether it was study that you did that you really don't want to pursue that career anymore, or whether it was a relationship. There is something much better coming through for you, but you had to go through this, Spirit is saying, so that you would start to value yourself at the level that you should. Okay, so let's have a look at a couple of other external factors by looking at fortune cards. So things that are kind of not so much in your control, though knowing about them can help you navigate the next steps to get towards the success and the happiness and fulfillment that the cards are suggesting you're meant to have. So the gate, a barrier keeps you from your goal. So I think, yes, there's something that still needs to be sorted out around a relationship or around your career choices. Something needs to be sorted out. Remain optimistic, but there's a barrier at the moment to something because it's meant to make you think differently. The chalice, rejuvenation and fulfillment. I think once you let go of that which is not for you, you can rejuvenate and fulfill your destiny, your career, your love, all of that sort of thing. And then the sun, your perseverance is rewarded. Yes, you will be rewarded, just as Nuada became the king once he had the sort of iron fist and he could actually, go forward in a society that required certain things. Your perseverance, your beauty, your high vibration is going to be rewarded, is going to be seen and recognized. Okay, in terms of Chinese fortune, we have freedom and paradise. Yeah, so there is something you need to free yourself from, whether it's your own definition of yourself as being somehow too different, whether it's a relationship that wasn't working out or a job that wasn't working out. Once you have the freedom, you're very close to paradise. This is why we're seeing the star and the sun together, and then we get the sun again with the fortune card. You are heading into a very good period of time, and that career success and life success, and I think love, I think it's connected in some way. Okay, so that's pretty exciting. So let's get a little bit of practical advice. Firstly, from the Heart Code Oracles, we'll pull a card from the career deck, the finance deck, and the wellness deck. The sort of three key areas that the sixth house looks over for you. Okay, so for career, we've got investor. Okay, so for some of you, there may be something very unique and different that you're creating as well from your own difference, from your own perspective, and there could be money coming in. There could be an opportunity to invest. So just keep an eye out for something like that. There could be sort of resources coming your way. Let's see what's happening financially, because it's interesting to see the investor there. Okay, this came up for another, so you might have come to two. Envy. So yeah, maybe something's going to happen where you get really recognized, where you get sort of investment, where you get all of that, and people are going to envy you a bit. I just think it's just don't let that get in the way. You come from a very pure place. So people trying to suggest anything like, where did you get your money from or whatever, don't worry about that. Just keep moving forward. Your vibration and your beauty will actually more and more be seen. It'll be very hard for that envy to be anything other than petty and off to the side. Okay, let's have a look at wellness. And we've got triggers. Okay, so because you're so heart-centered, and because I really get the sense that there's something a bit different about you, I think that this is definitely saying, like, don't let that trigger you. Don't let people's envy, don't let people's opinion trigger you. You are on the right direction, and what is different and beautiful and caring about you will succeed in the end. But just don't let people trigger you into feeling insecure, because I think maybe you came from a sense of insecurity, but as I say, once you really click into that new perspective, the thing that was different about you becomes the thing that is what really propels you forward and makes you successful. Okay, let's get a little bit more practical advice. We're going to use the Secret Women's Business deck. You don't have to be a woman. It's just that it's a deck that talks about career and business energies. So we've got yes and a spiritual business. Yeah, I think many of you, there's something spiritual in what you do, with the St. Valentine, with the sort of pilgrimage, there's something spiritual, the higher vibration. Some of you may literally be called upon or called towards a spiritual business, and you'll do exceptionally well. If not, there will be a spiritual side to what you do. Yes suggests that there is something you're contemplating at the moment, And the answer is yes, basically. So if you were contemplating, yeah, actually, I'm not really happy in this workplace, should I start looking for a new job? The answer would be yes. If it's, should I sort of bring this person in who I sort of feel this really strong heart connection with, the answer would be yes, and so forth. So, and should I be looking for more freedom in the way that I express myself? The answer would be yes. So, or is somebody envious of me? Yes. So whatever you were thinking about around your career and your vocation around this at this point in time or from this reading, the answer is yes, so that you can actually move forward with some confidence. Let's also look at what could be healed in you. So this is picking up the wellness side of the 6th house. Beauty. And entrapment. Okay. So I think this is working on a number of levels. Firstly, I think it's you need to understand how beautiful you are, because your soul, your energy is beautiful. As I keep saying, I think there's just something a little bit different about you. And you may not see that as beautiful, but it really is. There is a great deal of beauty in your soul, in your spirit, and I think also in your form, but you just may not see that. And I think you've been entrapped in other people's views and what society wanted and so forth. So it's freeing yourself from those outmoded ways of looking at things that are not true to you and not true to what's individual and beautiful in you. Pile 4. Okay, so let's finish off with some astrology and chakra energy. So firstly, we'll start with just sheer astrology, other astrology energy that is going on in your 6th house at the moment, and then we'll use the astro chakra cards to bring it all together. So we have the 6th house. So that's what we're looking at the moment, but it really says there's something about you intrinsically in the 6th house. You may well have the sun in the 6th house. And so your definition of self and everything will be to be of service of others and very much in who your life path is. We have conjunction, so we'll have a look at what planets are conjunct. And we have cardinal, which is about initiating doing something new. You may well have Aries, Cancer, Libra or Capricorn strongly, and they may in fact be one of the signs, a sign that's in your 6th house, but you could have it strongly in your chart. It is meant to do things that are new. This is this new territory. This is the new part of you, the different part of you. Let's have a look at conjunction. So conjunction is an interesting aspect. It can work incredibly well, or it can show difficulty depending upon how amicable the planets are there. So let's see whether this is either something that you need to be aware of to manage and balance, or whether it's something that will give more ease to what you do. So I'm just going to deal out till I get planets, and I've got the first one with Neptune. So this is the spiritual stuff. You definitely spiritually, Neptune and Uranus. So we got that really quickly. Yeah, you are definitely spiritually dialed in, and you are definitely of the new, and you are definitely of the ideal. But what you do is quirky. That's what I'm saying. I think that you weren't fully understood before. I think that you will move into being more and more understood and more appreciated. The more you connect to your spirituality and your individuality, that's a real strength for you. Okay. The other thing though, with those conjunct, I would say that there's a little bit of an issue with Uranus and Neptune conjunct, in as much as Neptune can be a little bit sort of vague and not formed yet, and Uranus likes to go really fast. So I think there would just be a thing about, don't let your wish to rush into things get in the way of what you could achieve. Like, just try and moderate it with working out when is the right time to do things and so forth. So it's just a little bit of a warning, but by and large I think they're working very well together for you, because I think that you're highly spiritual and that's part of what you're doing. So to finish off, we'll get 3 astro chakra cards. We have love. Yes, you're all about love. Intuition, and you're all about the psychic and the spiritual, and love again. Yeah, that's you, all right. So with 2 in the heart chakra, that with Jupiter and Pluto, that means that it's like Jupiter and Pluto are conjunct. So there's a huge amount of expansion and so forth as you transform in love. Like, there's something transformative in love. As I say, a divine union, something like that might be part of this. But it's really, really powerful, and it's wisdom connected to transformation. Makes you very generous, makes you grateful for when you get there. You will be grateful for the fact that you have been recognized, and your wisdom is showing up again in the 6th chakra, so the 3rd eye. So your telepathic connection with others, and I think also with the person that you love, is profound, is beneficial, and it's part of your pilgrimage. Your search, Your pilgrimage for love and connection and transformation is the thing that is going to also be how you serve others and the thing where you will find career success. So I hope that that resonates for you, Pile 4. I think that's really exciting, and I hope that you do too. And I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. And if you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear about it. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future episodes of this series and more generally in future readings.